G'day, folks. It's the coach here. Welcome to another special edition. We are talking all about the living city, Cities of Sigmar, my personal favorite book of all time. And what we're going to be doing is exploring one of the allegiances or one of the cities in the book. And my special guest, straight out of Delaware, one of the many basement wargamers, an author, an overall legend, been absolutely slaying it with the living city. So I thought there was no better person to come on the show. It is John Rocco, or Rocco, your boy. How are you, good sir?
Oh my God, with that introduction, I could just faint. You just too many compliments. You're too nice, Anthony. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to talk about what I've been doing with this.
So for anyone who doesn't know you, Rocco, you are an author. You've written an amazing book about you almost dying from a bat, not from Corona, not from Wuhan. This is many, many years before that.
Oh my God.
You are a notorious living city player. You've cracked the secret sauce.
Yeah.
What else do we need to know about you, good sir? How long have you played Warhammer for?
So I played Warhammer starting from when I was actually about 11 until I played through middle school into high school. And I was that kid that would go around to like the game shop and be like, wow, this is great. And I get into the lore and stuff like, oh yeah, come up, have a game. And then I kick the crap out of an adult. Like, oh, okay. Ooh, okay. The kid knows we're not taking it easy. And I first got into actually the Empire, one of your first loves. Yep. It was a Talabheim list for me too. I loved the paint scheme. I loved it. And I had like most of my list was actually knightly orders. And then I had some nice state troops backing them up and the handguns, because at that point they were a longer range and better than the crossbows. And there was those rules for like half distance to get better randage. I was in it. And then my true love, because I love all of Tolkien's work, and my favorite book is probably The Children of Húrin. Because I just love wood elves and elves of every flavor. It was like late 5th, early 6th edition fantasy battles that they redid the wood elves. And I got the battalion box and I was hooked. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is good. I ended up going to college and I couldn't take all my stuff with me. That's what happens to a lot of people. You fall out of the hobby a little bit. And about 2 years ago, and that with like probably like an 8-10 year gap, but we don't talk about that. I was actually here in Delaware. My wife was taking a licensing exam, and down the street from where we were staying was a Warhammer store. I'm like, oh my God, this could be great. You know, we end up moving to Delaware. This could be a whole new thing. This would be right where we would be living. We can get right into this hobby. And she was a big fantasy nerd, lover of it all too. But she was a little bit tepid about it. So I'm like, oh, maybe I'll get into 40K. I did that first originally. We get into the story, and she sees the big cutout of the Stormcast warrior woman with the hammer up, going bashing down on people. She's like, that. I want that. I'm like, okay, cool. They've got a starter box. We can do that. And then she's like, oh, no, I love Nighthaunt. I'm like, okay, so I guess I get the Stormcast. And that's what started me in for a year. And then what got me into Cities of Sigmar was I had actually just won a tournament with my Stormcast, and one of the prizes for it was a book, which here it is.
It's a good book. It's probably the best prize you could ever ask for. Forget the Forge World trophies. That is just 24 karat solid gold.
Oh my God. And then it's like, listen, hey, do you want an army that combines your love of the Empire, wood elves, and your Stormcast you ended up loving? Yeah, sold. 100%. That's it. I want it. I took my Storm. I even beat a Skaven player for it. He had the meta army. I didn't then. And then I just kind of keep that little bit of a chip on my shoulder with this, because I'm like, I want my stuff to work. I want to be unique. And this book has so much stuff. So much. And I love it.
It's not just one book. It's obviously a Cities of Sigmar book. You've got a Stormcast book for the Living City. You've got Sylvaneth. So it's essentially 3 battle tomes in one. Then you got your allies as well. Then you've got Gotrek.
Oh my God.
It's a pretty remarkable book. And I think this is kind of why I wanted to do this episode. So we could drill in a little bit deeper. So most people who have kind of gone over as reviews, they haven't been able to go deep diving because, hell, my faction focus for just
4
generally the book
hours?
was like 4 hours, and we were only skimming the surface. So this should be a good discussion purely about the living city. What does it do? What makes it work? You've been kind to provide me an army list so we can kind of look at how you build around it. You can kind of talk through that methodology and the thinking and the applying of the allegiance stuff into that list, because it's not the one that people are talking about. People are talking about Hallow Heart. People are starting to talk about Tempest Eye and Hammerhall. Very few people are talking about the living city, which is funny because one of the key strengths is movement, and it has all the movement. So maybe this is a good time to start. What is it good at? What are the strengths of the book? And then we'll dig a little bit deeper into the allegiance stuff. But like at a high level, what does this do better than the other cities?
This is your movement shenanigans cities. People are like, oh, Tempest Eye, you can move up 3 extra inches. You get your extra save. You can do some running stuff. But what Living City is so much better because we get to put half of our stuff in ambush. For each unit that's down on the table, you get to put another one off into the trees. They're just waiting there to jump somebody. So that doesn't count for Shadow Warriors who get deployed off table to start with. So that won't count as a drop. So if you got someone trying to be cheeky and they're like, oh, Shadow Warriors first, like, no, still got a way to put something in ambush. But here's what's really good about that too. When you combine that with our command ability, that at the end of the shooting phase, you get to spend a command point and move something that has already shot, you're setting up ambushes straight out of the short stories. It's, you're surrounding everybody, you're blasting away, you can set up all your shooting. People can't screen for shooting. You can't screen 24 inches for free guild crossbows. You can't screen for 30 inches of long strike raptors if you want. You're shooting over that. Or if you want, you can just put in a bunch of shooting, blow up the screen, and then move again what would have been where the screen was and hit something juicy. It also gives you the ability, say you already popped your ambush, you're out there, you have a unit that fights and shoots, you move them, their max range, keep them just a little bit within range, shoot with the guy. You don't have to hit anything. You don't have to kill anything. You just had to shoot. Then you move them again. They get double movement. And you're just flying across the board.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And then we're going to get into the secret sauce. Like you just talking about that alone. I think about some of the combat monsters like, for example, Drycha or Alariel or Durthu, who are, being brought into Cities of Sigmar. They all have a shooting attack as well as their combat monsters. So, even just looking at your army and saying, well, my Black Dragon can shoot and it can charge and it's good in combat. What else do I have that allows me to take advantage and then absolutely wreck face and destroy a flank to take it off the side of the board so that a KO or a Zench don't delete it at the start of the game? How do I stretch out an Iron Jaws army that wants to kind of flood the board and charge you in turn 1, but you're not there?
You're not there. So they don't know where you're coming from.
You don't know where you're coming from, right? So if someone kind of goes super aggressive, then you can kind of exploit the flank and jump from the other side, capture the objective, and maybe they don't have the speed, or you're able to manipulate the board and mess up their plans, which is pretty exciting. It's probably feels a little bit 40k-ish, but it's not. It is taking advantage of the board, and it makes people think a little bit differently, which I think is really cool.
Yep. There is one caveat. When you come in from ambush, you do have to be within 6 inches of a table edge. So they have kind of an idea where you're coming from. But in a lot of battle plans that we can talk about with more strengths too, with how it could be like Battle for the Pass with that weird deployment, they can't screen out everything. The deployment barely comes to the so they can get their backboard edge. Yeah, sure. Then they're not all up front to try to grab objectives. You play the mental game with them, you win it. They try to push all this stuff up. Like I played against the Stormcast army that's too elite to be able to screen. It even had a Go Trek in it. I'm like, well, here I am. I'm in your back line. You can't move up the board now because I can get 4 points. And you get a lot of tools with it.
Yeah, and it's cool, right? Because you can do anything, right? You can do something small based. You could take your 25 mil bases and have a line of handgunners or a line of crossbowmen or wild watchers or iron drakes. You could take a large base.
A watch.
could do a large base. You could take things like Hurricanums, Luminarks. You could take things like, gyrocopters and
Yep.
you just got to think about what's likely to be able to fit in your 6-inch line.
Yep.
Because there might be terrain that blocks it. There could be armies. You just got to think about that. And there'll be somewhere on the board that you can kind of bring together. But I might bring up the rules, and I'd love to explore a little bit what it does, and kind of I'm going to pretend that I'm a new player reading this book, and I'm like, right, this is what I get for being Cities of Sigmar, living cities. What do I get? And maybe you can put some experience or some caveats on this to explain a little bit more about how you look at the world.
Oh, it'd be my pleasure.
So first things first is that the living city is an army that is tied to one of the realms. So in malign sorcery, we've got 8 realms, 7 are selectable, 1 is not selectable, and you've got the living city coming from Gairan. What does that mean to you?
That means to me, I get some really cool artifacts that get overlooked, like Garopian gauntlets for a 6-inch pile-in. That can be amazing. Say you go and charge multiple units with some of the things we can talk later with different artifacts on one hero. You've got 2 combat heroes. You're like, you know what? I can get that 6-inch pile-in to pile through what died. I'm hitting all kinds of things. I'm moving crazy. And there's also healing artifacts that can go and help you come up a bracket if you're a big monster as well. It's great.
So it means that, basically, to drill that down a little bit further, it means that I have artifacts that are specific to me in the living city. And then I've also got, assuming where you're playing is playing with malign sorcery, which most events and most tournaments will play with, at least with the artifacts. It means I'm going to have 12 additional artifacts that could be combat or utility based. So I know Gaia Strike, for example, is a very popular one, but it's not the only good artifact. So it looks like, I can really beef things up and try to take advantage of whatever build I want to build.
And again, forgive me. I joke and say that I like playing with my misfit toys. That's why I'm like, oh, everyone knows Gaia Strike. Everyone knows it. What's something else? Which is why I like those gauntlets.
It makes you think a little bit differently. And once you've experienced an army who can pile in 6 inches, it does change the game as well. So I like that call out. But just long story short, there's more artifacts to choose from. Second thing you get is that you are the city war groves. And essentially what it does is that you can include Sylvaneth units. So 1 in every 4 of your units can be a Sylvaneth unit. Now, the Sylvaneth unit gains the Cities of Sigmar keyword, as well as the living city keyword.
Yes.
Break that down. What does that mean to me?
So what that means is, for every 4 units, and this includes also the Stormcast that come native in the book. So you can have 2 units of Free Guild Guard, a Stormcast unit, and then a Sylvaneth unit coming in. That's your Durthu, that's your Drycha, that's your Alariel. And it gives you so much flexibility because you can draw from all 3 books. A living city's army none of them will ever look the same because there are just so many options. Do you like Tree Revenants with their teleporting? Do you like Fulminators for their 3 damage on the charge? Do you like Durthu coming in with his big frickin' sword, coming in with the 6 damage? Do you like Alariel, who can't fit in the ambushing because her base is too big, but with her flying move, it's like a 30-inch range, I think, with their shooting attack, and then move again. You don't need it. You really don't need it. She's killing whatever you put her into.
She can bring in a free unit as well. Bring a unit of Kurnoth Hunters or Dryads as well.
Yeah. Or a Tree Lord, too. You want another big you want to monster mash this up, man? You go for it.
Yeah, that's neat. So it's probably really good, worth calling out as well, is that on top of the Cities of Sigmar abilities, which is the retinue, which is, generating a command point on a 4+, being able to bounce mortal wounds off your general, if there's a unit of 20 or less models that you tie themselves to. There is the 1 in every 4 can be a Stormcast unit as well. Yeah. And much like the Stormcast unit, it's not an ally. So your Sylvaneth 100%. And your Stormcast don't have to be allies, which means you're not restricted to 400 points. You want to bring in a Celestin Prime and you want to bring in Durthu, Cool, do it. It's well over 400 points, but you can because they are technically a living cities. You just got to follow that 1 in every 4. So really, you could do it in such a way that 2 units come from Cities of Sigmar. One's a Stormcast, one's a Sylvaneth. You're meeting your 1 in every 4 in all of those scenarios.
I couldn't have said it better myself, and I just tried.
You did. You did it very well, but I think the allies as well is probably a good call out because some people might think that they're restricted to their allies.
Yep.
All right. Sweet. What else do we get for this? We get this rule that you've kind of spoken and alluded to already, which is the Hunters of the Hidden Paths. So instead of setting up a living cities unit on the battlefield, you place it to the side and say that it is in the hidden paths as a reserved unit. Yep. You get to pick 1 reserved unit as a hidden path for, on the battlefield. So basically, at the end of your movement phase, you select 1 or more of these units on the battlefield, wholly within 6 inches of the edge of the battlefield, and more than 9 in from an enemy. Any reserved units from the hidden paths that are not set up on the battlefield by the 4th turn are destroyed.
Yep. Nice and straightforward. This is our deep striking, like Stormcast, like Night Haunt, except we are restricted to a board edge. But again, with all of the what will be coming up in the command ability, we have such movement. We don't care that we're restricted to a board edge. That makes this balanced by restricting us to a board edge, and we still abuse the hell out of it. And, you can get it so that you have 1,200 points of your army off the table, and say you run into a Zine, say you run into a KO, all you have on the table is chaff that you don't care that's going to die. They're not hitting your hard hammer pieces. They're not hitting the things that are going to wipe them off the table. You're in control. It's great.
I used to play an army that was very similar to this. So in Legions of Nagash, there's a legions that most people kind of look over, which is the Legion of Night, which is Manfred's list, and it has a very similar mechanic where it allows you to have 3 units off the side of the board, and being able to, and I remember, people would see my list and it would have a Terror Geist, it would have a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, it would have Morghast, it would have, Manfred, it had all these, it was a very combat, big hitting kind of army. And I'd always deploy them right at the end. So my opponent never knew where it was going. So it was very hard for them to kind of counter my deployment. And then at the very end, either I'd put the Terror Geist on the board because people would kind of attempt to screen and they would kind of backfield and they're stretching their lines out. And that was never the plan. Or if I see that they're kind of, they've left some big holes, I put them to the side. So from a psychological point of view as well, it really does allow you to manipulate the board and influence your opponent who may not deploy this way.
Yep. Oh, it's
because they're shit scared of that Star Drake coming at you and coming from the side. That's another thing that has a shooting attack. You know what I mean?
Yep. And so the Rain of Stars and those are abilities, but you can take the Drakesworn Templar for the Star Drake variant. That can have a bow, and that also gives you +1 to hit on your Dracov cap. That's the Fulminators, the Concussors, the Desolator meta that Joel McGrath ended up talking about in all his videos. That's this. So now, you're deep striking them, they shoot, and they move again. You're up in people's faces in ways they didn't even imagine.
So 1 in every 2. So basically, you've got to put a unit on the board for a unit to be deep strike. Shadow Warriors are not going to count because they don't start on the board. So that's a secret. That's a trap that I've seen some people build that like 4 units of Shadow Warriors, and then they go, "Cool, I'm going to put the rest of the stuff on the board on the side." And I'm like, no, the Shadow Warriors don't count. But
I had a guy try to do that to me in a tournament. Yeah.
But basically, got to put a unit down, and there is some secret sauce as well. I know things like tree revs, for example, are a nice little secret sauce of getting around that.
100%. Them and the little pan flute floating around the board, teleporting everywhere. Again, you have so many movement options to go and trap people into this. It's just so tasty.
Yeah, there's a player locally to me, Ken Sattler. He's absolute machine, and he's been sending me some really crazy list text when it comes to this particular book. So nice. Maybe link it all up. The other two things we could think about is the attunement to nature. So at the start of the hero phase, you heal 1 wound allocated to each friendly living city unit.
Yep. I love it. I love it. It's again, it's between that and there's also a spell we'll go over later for healing. You know, you're almost always going to be fighting in a top bracket for your monsters. If you take like Kurnoth Hunters, you take Durthu, you take Fulminators, you take Concussors, you know, things that are these big chunky units that have 4 or 5 wounds on them per model, you know, you love in life. It's not going to bring a model back from the dead, but if you're going for more of an elite build that's going to get in your face and wants to be in combat constantly, in your hero phase, you're healing that wound, and you are going to feel so great about it every time. And also, for a little quick thing too, with like Seraphon, they have a Comet's Call spell that can affect multiple units anywhere on the board for D3 mortal wounds. This natural counter to it, because you know you're gonna get 1 or 2 wounds. You're not going to be bracketed. You're going to heal that one up. And it just helps so much.
One of the other things as well, right, is, you know, there's a player in our Discord, Dreamer, who we've been watching a lot playing with the new version of the Croaknado, which is really tasty. And, you know, a Croaknado is often going to sit as far back as possible, you know, reigning magical supremacy and being hard to get to. It's probably going to take you, for most armies, 2 to 3 turns to get even remotely close to that Croak, let alone if the skinks kind of flood the board and stop you from getting to Croak while he kind of just rains terror on the board. However, this allows you to get close with your shooting range to take out those synergistic buff pieces or those people of causing mass terror from the back as well. So, you know, if you've got an army that's going to be like a defensive castle and kind of just blocks you off from the juicy stuff, aka a Hollow Heart, this is going to allow you to break that apart. So, which is cool as well. And yeah, I think really good point. If you're taking single unit, so single wound units, you know, Phoenix Guard, for example, it's not going to bring a model back. So it's not like Emerald Life Swarm, but it will heal your monsters. It will heal your chariots. It will heal your multi-wound units.
Oh, yeah.
And the final thing you get is your command ability, which is strike, then melt away. So you can use this command ability at the end of your shooting phase. If you do so, pick one friendly living cities unit that has shot in that phase, is more than 9 inches from the enemy, and is wholly within 18 of a friendly living city hero. That unit can make a move. It can't run. The unit cannot benefit from this command ability more than once per phase. So break that down. It's a little bit kind of tricky, but what does it essentially mean?
So let me tell you the biggest, most important thing of this. For a command ability to be triggered by a hero, wholly within 18 inches, 18, a foot and a half. That is such a huge range to be able to trigger this. And so the beauty of this is, say you pop in a unit that can shoot and go on, like, let's take a Dreadlord on Black Dragon. No one ever talks about him. You give him that hand crossbow, right?
Don't talk about don't tell him my secrets about the Black Dragon, the Dreadlord on Black Dragon.
Okay, sure. All right, keep going. All right. You're scaring me here. All right, but yeah, let's say we got a nice hero that has the shooting attack. Let's say the Star Drake with the bow. How about that? If that's a safer topic. He comes in off the table edge, he shoots, he moves. And that is a flying move. He can fly over the screen if it's positioned right. And because you have to come in outside of 9 inches anyway for deep striking, you're legal. And it's a little bit of, you have to have that outside of 9 inches to go, so you can't be in combat and shoot and move and go. But say there's a unit that is currently stuck in combat. They shoot themselves 3, and now there is no enemy unit within 9 inches of them. Spend that command point, they're hauling. Let's say you've got a unit that has a high movement again. Let's take some Stormcast Cav. Pick your flavor with a 12-inch shot. They go at their max range of 10 inches it is usually. You just need one model to shoot. Pop the guy 12 inches away. Let's say you get some mortal wounds. Even if you miss a shot, you spend the command point, that's 20 inches up the board. Let's say your opponent, like Dreamer did, puts down cogs. I got 24 inches around the screen and into some juicy pterodons. This list works.
That's a really good call. Pause for a second. That's
Yep.
awesome. So if you're thinking about that movement shenanigans and you're like, right, how do I maximize that sideboarding? Rocco just made a really good point. Cogs would give you that +2 to the move as well. So all of a sudden, you're getting deep into the backfield of an opponent. So that's a really good call.
Yeah. Oh, it's great.
I didn't want to miss it just in case some people like just didn't click. I'm like, no, that's good. That's good stuff.
Chronomatic. I didn't even bring them myself. The other guy did. But I'm like, wait a minute. This is amazing.
Yeah. And then once you kind of use it, you could always slow down time and then cast an extra spell. But
and the +2 to charge with cogs too. So then you're getting basically 6 inches of movement out of it. For a 50-point command point that you bought already.
4 point. You get +2 to move, then +2 to the chart. Yeah.
But you move twice.
Not if you deep strike. If you deep strike.
Not if I deep strike, but again, I wouldn't be moving the first time if I deep struck. Say I'm already on the board. Again, I get the +2, so I move 10, shoot. Well, it'd be move 12, shoot, move 12 again, and then the charge comes in, and you're flying.
Yeah, so being able to fly would be pretty cool. So, you're thinking about things like, being able to fly. So maybe a gyrocopter as an example.
The bombers.
The gyro bombers. There are so many things that, that can shoot and fly. Something that might be worthwhile in investigating is something that I used to run in the very early days of Age of Sigmar under the old Firestorm, which is now Cities of Sigmar. I would run prosecutors, the flying storm cast with the double hammer, and they have a 3d6 charge because they can charge 18 inches. And they were like 90 points, and the javelin, if you threw it more than 9 inches, did 2 damage, or it was mortal wounds. I can't remember exactly what it did, but a 3d6 charge from the side, you can always guarantee that is not going to fail. And then add chronomatic cogs.
Oh, we're getting spicy. And here's another one too. So the Shadow Warriors, right? Again, they set up outside 9. They shoot. You move them in. You drop in a squad of 10 Shadow Warriors on a lightly contested objective. They shoot the guys off. You don't have to worry about making a charge to get there. They just walk onto it and they score. Great. So
that's been always one of my frustrations with the Shadow Warriors is that you often go for like I played a game yesterday with a gentleman by the name of Buckets who, he had his general, which was a sorceress, on an objective. So I put the Shadow Warriors in the back, shot her off. But then the problem was that I couldn't move and claim the objective. And if I got double turned, there was a good chance those Shadow Warriors were going to die. But being able to at least kind of move on to the objective, and they're not bad in combat as well. You get real value for money if you're able to shoot, move forward, and then do some combat stuff.
Yep, 100%. I did that in a game of Battle for the Past, actually, where I was able to drop down, shoot a guy, actually retreated my general out just to make sure I could get in range, just to have all the models. And because it was a flying general, he was able to go over the screening unit. That would have stopped anybody else. To go near the Shadow Warriors. They walked right on, scored me 4 points. Amazing unit, amazing use of the command ability.
Yeah, and look, there's, I'll call out Dylan in the chat here. And there's some great chat here, by the way, guys. Thank you so much for all the good stuff. Jared's talking about things like steam tanks.
Yes.
That's
my
incredible.
God, steam tanks.
That's
steam
so cool.
Tanks.
Stuart's talking about, gyrocopters. Dylan's talking about, things like Tree Lords, Drycha, Dracoths, Vanguards. Like, there's so many cool stuff that you can, when you apply that methodology in the Stormcast book or in the Sylvaneth book and the Cities book, you can really start to see how you can really take advantage of the movement shenanigans and then being able to get into combat into usually the juicy backfield or collapse the flank, all while the rest of your army is moving up the board.
Oh yeah,
while that Wall of Phoenix guard, those Iron Drakes, those those whatever you're bringing, right? Like your free guard or your hammers.
Yep, and also the because the ambush counts as a setup. So if you have something where they get double the attacks, shoot away, man. That it's going to be a pile of rubble when you're done.
So what does that? That's a really good example, right? Because that and there are other things that that reward you. If you don't move, you get X. So like the first thing that comes to my mind is things like handgunners, where, you know, handgunners are going to get pluses to their hits if they don't move.
Yep.
We know the crossbowmen double tap.
Yep. Yeah, they do. It's great. With 24-inch range, one of the cool things you can do too is you've got because with all of the ranges and stuff you can layer them so you can shoot the handgunners and then the crossbows behind it. And depending on how much table edge you have, you could have one of the Dreykov cav. Again, I love this Fulminators. So you can go have the Dreykov shoot first, right? So a shot, they can move later. Then you lay into them with the handgunners. Then you lay into them with the crossbows. That screen is gone. You know, it's
things fun. Like because other armies out there, not cities armies, but armies in general, are trying to get this type of ability with things like the Soul Screen Bridge. And they're paying a good 80 points to be able to pick up a unit, teleport them, and then because that counts as it doesn't count as a move, and it counts as a setup, they get their benefit, right? But things like your Iron Drakes, things like your Sisters of the Watch, you know, your handgunners, your crossbowmen, they're all things that benefit from not moving. So this is a perfect thing to put on the side, setting them up and getting a benefit because you're not moving.
Yep. And with 80 points, you know, 10 more to that, and you have another unit in cities. You know?
Exactly.
Great. 100 points for handgunners. You're right there, man. You're close enough. More shots.
You know, I'm scared out of my pants thinking about something like Draicha, though.
Oh, my God.
Because she is independent. She is a strong, independent woman. She needs no man. She just gets in there, wrecks face, lets off the flutterbuys, get into combat, wrecks face as well. So she doesn't need stacking. She doesn't need anyone to support her. She's just an absolute missile from the side of the board.
Yep. And then you know, she takes some damage. You heal the wound. Oh my God, she's up. She's doing great. You know, she. You have a wizard nearby to heal her up too. That's a lot of stuff someone's gonna have to go and throw at her. And you know, people are like, oh, she's a few hundred points, but you know, you're gonna have to put 500-600 points in to match her, and you're already at that disadvantage, and you already lost stuff because she gets to attack first because she came off the board to shoot you and then get into combat. You're already lost that fight just by putting more stuff into it.
Yeah, but I think, you know, I hope the people on chat, as well as the people who are watching this later, start now thinking about their army, their units. They're right. How can I really take advantage of this? What can I do that has a shooting profile that often I kind of don't think about because it's a combat beat stick?
I got a good one. All right. Big spawn chariots. Hear me out. They've got the shooting They have impact hits when they go into you too. In a big unit, you can get, it's on a 2-up, but then you get D3 impact hits and they're good in combat. And no one's thinking Drake spawn in any of this. No one's thinking Dark Elves in any of this. Old Dark Elves, whatever, Darkling Covenants now, whatever your flavor is. I love Wood Elves. Scourge Privateers, you can go in with them. Now, their range, I believe, is 9 inches, so that won't work from the board edge. But still, if they're like holding an objective, someone comes in close to threaten them, they failed their charge, it's your turn now. Or, God forbid, you got a double turn. They can shoot themselves 3 and move up. They can shoot and move up. Once it's dead, and it's great. You know, there's so many things that this works with.
All right. Well, I think we kind of like beat that nail down. Like people now know, you know, Gary Percival's in the chat talking about, you know, the Star Drake with the bow. So we kind of talked about that as well. So like there are so many things out there that have a shooting attack. If only the Free Guild General had a shooting attack as well. But,
I know. Oh my God.
Just like, give me a little scream or something. But Rocco, you were very kind to send me through a couple of lists. So I thought, you know, like, you know, we could keep talking about, you know, all the different kind of ways we can do this, but I thought there's probably no better way to then look at a list and kind of see how it all comes into practice. Obviously, this is not the list. I hope I don't see everyone running this list. It's not like this big internet list, but this is just Rocco putting all the methodology into practice and then explaining how he got to that point and why it works. So, so take it away. We've got the Living City. The first thing we've got here is the general, which is the Free Guild general. You've got the command trait of the Iron Oak Artisan with Lance and Shield, and the Spear of the Hunt as an artifact. So talk me through this piece and how this works.
I got one better for you. The name of the list, I jokingly say, is my Misfit Toys. So what ends up happening is when everyone's trying to net list and meta list with stuff, they're like, oh, this unit's shit. The points went up. Oh, it wounds on 4s. This isn't a great optimal build out. And I'm like, you know what? I want to try something.
I feel this is a personal attack, by the way.
No, never. Yes, it is. It's a horrible thing. No.
Look, all I said to you was that when the Free Guild General at this point in time is worth 320 points, and the Frost Heart Phoenix Guard, the Frost Heart Phoenix with an Anointed is 320 points, it is very hard to justify taking this General over a Frost Heart Phoenix with Anointed.
Yes, and I agree.
That's my defense.
I agreed until one of my friends sold me one for $20. He wasn't using it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make this work, damn it. We're going to find a way. What city could I use? I'm like, oh, Living City. Let's see here. Iron Oak Artisan, add 1 to save rolls for attacks that target this general. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for attacks made with melee weapons by this general. He comes in with the lance, normally wounding on 4s. Now it's a 3.
Hold on. Free Guild General has a base save of 4.
Yep.
You put a shield on him. He's on 3s.
Yep.
You've now put on the the Iron Oak Artisan.
Yep, it's a mouthful. But 2 up, baby. 2 up. He is a tank. And
he's a 2 up armor saved beat stick.
Oh my god. Spend the command point to give him +1 to hit on all his profiles and stuff too. You're tearing people up. So what? The lance usually hits on, I've got the worst roll here.
Is it 4s?
No, the lance normally hits. It's 4 attacks, 3s to hit, 4s to wound, -1 rend, 2 damage. So this pairs also with the Spear of the Hunt. The Spear of the Hunt, you pick one of the bearer's melee weapons. We're picking the lance. Improve the rend characteristic of that weapon by 1. In addition, the bearer and their mount fights at the start of the combat phase if they made a charge move in the same turn. So here's where this starts getting a little nutty and weird. When you charge, now your lance goes, because first it's -1. Normally, you get another extra rend when you charge. Spear of the Hunt, it's a -3 rend damage 2 weapon. That when you spend the command point, you're hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s. This ends up being a Mortec guard killer with all of this. As weird as that is to say out loud, with a -3 rend weapon. That normally doesn't happen in this game unless you're a named
There's not a lot of
character.
rend free these days. There's not a lot of rend free.
This is where we start. We're playing 40K right now. I got AP3. We've got some plasma weapons shooting. This guy is killing whatever he gets into. And God forbid he gets into something that's like a normal battle line outside of Bone Reapers that has like maybe a 5-up save. Sometimes it's 4. It's right through. They're mortal wounds you're doing. 4 attacks. And let's say you pair it up with something that gives you rerolling 1s to hit. 2s rerolling 1s into 3s, 2 damage. Just say it's 8 damage, 8 mortal wounds you're just doing with that weapon. And then you get into the Griffin itself that's moving 15 and flying.
Yeah.
And when you charge in, you get always straight. He's a baby Terrorgeist. That's what
the Griffin for me was always the thing that did the most amount of damage. I always took the Grand Hammer. I found it more consistent. Obviously, often for me,
that's not consistent.
Pardon?
Force to wound is not that consistent.
I can't remember why I took it.
Oh no, the hammer is better.
It might have been the damage, or it might have been. I can't remember why I took it. Oh, no, it was a sword. Sorry, I think I took the sword. Doesn't matter. I'm looking at my models. Actually, no, doesn't matter. The point is that the Griffin did more damage. It's got the cool once per battle, the battle cry. But what I'm hearing, just generally, is that the Iron Oak Artisan is going to give us +1 to our saved. It's going to give us a Spear of the Hunt, which is an allegiance-based artifact that's going to give us some more damage potential. This is not a malign sorcery. This is a Living Cities artifact.
One of our 3, and damn, it's a good one.
So this could go on, the Black Dragon. It could go on to a steam tank. It could go on to whatever
a steam tank.
Pardon?
That'd be funny on a Steam take. Drive
It'd be
closer so I
hilarious.
can hit him with my pointy stick.
But like, there's a whole range of things. So like, if I think about the methodology, you've got
So
this absolute powerful unit that you've taken these two artifacts trait and artifact in combination.
Yep. And also, I want to say, because the Sigmar Great Hammer on it, that's 3s to hit, 3s to wound, 3 attacks, Ren 2, 2 damage naturally. Again, there's another Ren 3. I just don't like, because when I roll dice, I tend to roll low. I need to find a way to mitigate that. So I'm getting D3 damage. I'd rather split the difference and just take the straight 2 personally. And also, it's a 2-inch range.
I think that's why I took it. I'm pretty sure from memory, I got sick of rolling 1s on my D3 damage. So I went for the consistent 2.
Yep. So now we get to these battle mages. So I want some redundancy with the Lore of Leaves, which is our spell lore. We get 3 spells. Life Surge, casting value of a 6. If successfully cast, pick a friendly model within 18 inches, not wholly, just within 18 inches of the caster that's visible to them, heal D6 wound. We're bumping up a bracket. Other options for this, which are great shoutouts, are Cage of Thorns, which is on a 7. You pick an enemy unit within 18, and you have their movement characteristic until your next hero phase. And the first time they move, they take D6 mortal wounds. Great spell, lots of utility. For this list, I put it on the Knight-Incantor, but I want redundancy on my battle mages to heal up my Griffin or some of the later units that you'll end up seeing. And the third spell is Iron Oak Skin, which is also amazing, which is what it's so hard to choose with all these. But you cast that on a 6, and you pick a unit within 18 again. Again, huge range in this city. And you subtract 1 for wound rolls that attack that unit. Think of it like the Frost Phoenix Aura. Great spells. The battle mages are there. So the first battle mage is actually from Azir. The reason why, I need a hero that's cheap and disposable to drop off, do all my deep striking shenanigans. And let's say, my opponent takes first turn, they move out of the way, I deep strike in the bottom of 1, I win the priority on turn 2. I'm probably in range to do damage with Chain Lightning, blasting around, jumping from unit to unit. Also, it's a nice way to surgically insert an unbind if it's a weird, funky deployment. So I don't have to worry about moving that. The second battle mage will actually usually be from Gur for me for that +2 to charge. I put that on my big general there, and with his command ability, with that +1 to hit, he also gives himself +1 to charge. Mm-hmm. So we've got +3 on the Griffin that I want in to murder everybody, and if he doesn't murder them, he's on a 2-up. And I have the Knight-Incantor there too. If I'm feeling fancy and free, maybe I just put a Mystic Shield on the guy, 2-up pre-rolling 1s. I've seen me do it. I've seen me do it great. He doesn't die.
So for anyone who doesn't know this, when you choose a battle mage, there are 8 different spells you choose from. You pick a realm where it comes from. It doesn't have to necessarily be the realm that your army comes from. So it could be a Hysh battle mage, or it could be a Shyish battle mage. But and there's some great stuff like, Fierce Protection for the -1. You've got, Fireball from Akshi. There's a whole range of different things. But I think what you've said, the cheap hero to allow you to activate that command ability. You've also got a cheap unbind. So should they not kill that leader, you'll be able to potentially unbind at a closer range. And there are some other heroes that actually do that better, but there's some nice synergy kind of coming about here.
Yeah. And there's also with that, when I deep strike my stuff in and it gets hurt, I have Life Surge there to heal them up. Yeah. So now the Knight-Incantor, who I love to death, it's won me so many games. It's something that it has different abilities on there. The first one that I love is the automatic unbind. You can automatically unbind a spell. Someone tries to cast Protection and Nagash with a bunch of pluses to cast, or let's say it's a Crowe with +4 to cast for whatever reason, or a Balewind Vortex. Nope. No, thank you. Not today. You don't get your floaty chair to be extra floaty. You're not teleporting when I shoot you, Nagash. You're dying right where you stand. You're dying on your feet like a man. You're going down. It's a once per game nuke button. Love it. Also, the Knight-Incantor is a bit of a beat stick. Has a 3-up save, 3 attacks, 3s and 3s, D3 damage. But what I love, at the start of the combat phase, you can blow yourself up. You have Spirit Flasks. You pop all 3 into a unit of 10 or more models. That is D3 damage per flask. And because you, the Knight-Incantor, are a unit of 1 model, you take 1 mortal wound yourself. I lined up a Knight-Incantor to pop 3 units of 10 Dryads and finish the last 2 wounds off of Kurnoth Hunter. And then I finished the last Dryads with my 2-inch reach attacks from the staff, wiped them all. Finished the Dryads off in Battle Shock. This Knight-Incantor can put in work. Also, it allows me to go in and use the Everblaze Comet from the Stormcast. Drop that down. That'll be at the bottom of the list, but just to get into it since the Incantor's here, if I, for some reason, know I'm going first, which it happens, it's a lot of units in this, we're not going for the battalion, which is a good battalion, but still. If I know I'm going first, the Incantor's back. That Comet has like a 36-inch range. I just say outside of 30, drop it. It's a very, very cheap spell to cast, and then I'll just run the Incantor up to be my note button. You know, they need cogs to go off on an Adharn army. You ain't getting cogs, but you are taking my Comet to the face. And the Comet is also -1 to casting for them, too. So, you know what? Maybe they burn a cast trying to unbind the Comet, and then I burn another one of their casts with the note button. Great. Love the Knight-Incantor.
And what's really cool as well is you have the ability to, unlike my armies, you have the ability to heal that Knight-Incantor back up. So if the Knight-Incantor, you know, at the start, it's been charged, it drops the 3d6 flasks, the 3d6 damage flasks, and you're like, crap, you know, now I've got this hero running around with 1 wound or 2 wounds. You know, you can actually bring that back up to full strength. And while you can't use the flasks again, you've still got a hero that's on a 3-up. That is a wizard. That may or may not still have its automatic unbind once per game. It's a very tasty unit, and you're getting even more value than probably I would.
Yep, and even funnier too, because they were handing them out at every Games Workshop too with a little magazine starter kit. Everybody's got one. You know, $8, get the magazine that has the basic rules. You can get a Knight-Incantor. Like, yes, it's $8 American. I think it's like 54 Australian. We'll talk about that later.
I mean, I picked mine up for $12. So in the grand scheme of Australia to America conversion, that was pretty good at the time. But you know, economy.
Yep.
So you've got a Knight-Incantor, and you've kind of now starting to look at your units, and I can see there is a lot of you know, MSU or multiple small units. You've got 10 Field Guild Crossbowmen, 10 Free Guild Handgunners, 10 Free Guild Handgunners, 10 Phoenix Guard, 10 Shadow Warriors, 10 Phoenix Guard, 4 Formulators. We'll go to the top first. We'll talk a bit about the Crossbowmen.
So the Crossbowmen, I need battle line in this list. My damage is not supposed to come from my battle line. I'm using the Phoenix Guard a little funky in this. My damage is Big Bird, the Griffin, and the Fulminators. I need cheap battle line that can still affect the battle from far away while holding objectives for me. Free Guild Crossbowmen with a 24-inch shot. They can double tap if they don't move, and they still have 10 or more models. I'm probably deep striking them to help clear off the screen. I could deep strike the crossbows, the handgunners, the fulminators, and because this should be 11 drops that I sent you in this list. I have different drops and different things. But I'd be able to deep strike shooting, the fulminators, a hero to make them all run up and do whatever. So I can clear chaff as well. You know, 20 shots, 4s and 3s, enough for getting through. The leader, he's like a sniper. He hits on 3s. He'll get 2 shots with it. We're loving life. The handgunners, who actually has the sniper rifle with the 30-inch range. And that 16 inches of the handgunners, you can layer it so the handgunners are in front, crossbows are behind them. Handgunners, if they get charged, they get to Overwatch as well, protecting everything. It is just, you make your own little fortress.
Just to pause for a second, Overwatch is referring to if an enemy ends its charge within 3 inches of the handgunner, they get to shoot before combat commences. So
yes, sir.
So it's a pretty cool little ability. I use it at times behind, let's say, a unit of Phoenix Guard. So if I have like a row of Phoenix Guard, and then as an example, like a row of Phoenix Guard, then maybe an inch behind them is the handgunners. Yeah. So that when the enemy ends within an inch or within 3 inches, because you've got it's 3 inches, but you need to factor in, like, you don't want the handgunners to be hitting combat. So I kind of keep them at least 1 inch out of the Phoenix Guard so that the opponent, when they pile in, can't hit over the top. Yeah. But as long as I've got an inch, you know, and I can cap that 3 inches, kind of that bubble, they're going to get a free round of shooting, which is pretty tasty.
Which is still great, and that is a great way to play handgunners. I promote that because there are games where I do just that. I use it slightly differently.
Yeah. In this, it's completely different. In Living Cities,
a whole different play style.
That's such a waste.
No. Because what I'm doing, I'm plopping down the handgunners, crossbows behind them, those fulminators. So those fulminators, I'm jumping a little bit down there. So they've got 12-inch range on their shooting, 4 up, D3 damage, mortal wounds. That's great. But once they shoot, they move again. When they charge, it's 3 damage for the riders on a lance. 12 attacks, 3s and 3s. And there's ways to buff with re-rolling or add 1 to hit in different lists and there's different units. Those things, with hopping out of Deep Strike, with the crossbows, a unit of handgunners and my fulminators, I wiped out a unit of Iron Guts. And it was just that I broke the guy's back on the first turn. It was an ogre. He moved his gluttons up the board. It was knife to the heart. He wanted Iron Guts back to try to defend his objective. Cleared him out. Easy game, easy life.
And I think the key that I really want people to take away here is that, Rocco, correct me if I'm wrong, you could have easily combined that unit of handgunners into one larger unit. You could have either dropped the crossbowman and made that a big block of 30, or you even could have done unit 20. And you do get some benefits if you go 20. But a couple of things to call out is the fact that you've gone mostly multiple small units, because although you're increasing your drops, that's also increasing the amount of units that can deep strike from the side, because 1 in every 2 can be deep striked.
100%.
Remember, the Shadow Warriors don't count.
Yep. So let's say there's 11 units in the list. That means I have to put 5 on the table. 5 can go in the trees. And even better, the reason why I like multiple small units with this is if I need to do, like, if I'm playing someone that can also deep strike, the handgunners can be screens for me. You can't tag them all and kill them all at once. They're wearing T-shirts. They have a 6-up save. If one dies, I'm hurting. But if it's a 30-man, that's 300 points that are wearing T-shirts. And this, you got to cut through 3 individual units. On top of that, for each multiple small unit of handgunners, they get a sniper rifle that gets 2 damage on the shot and ignores lookout, sir.
Yeah. That not ignoring lookout, sir, is great. So that's that -1 to hit a character if it's within range of a unit.
Yep.
So all of a sudden, you can either do 2 damage, or you can really start snipering, again, those heroes that are sitting behind a unit. And it's got like a 30-inch range as well. So
I get 2 of those shots.
Yeah.
It's great. And also there's another reason, a third reason, big reason. I need battle line. Because the rest of my stuff isn't battle line. So I needed the 3 units. And I'm like, what is cheap enough and has a long enough range that I can use and have enough synergies with if they have to stand on their own and be self-sufficient? So, like, let's say, I come in at the bottom of the turn and I don't win priority. You're charging my handgunners that get to stand and shoot. They can ping off 3-4 guys with that, between the 2 of them at least, if not more. And, you gave me a second shooting phase. Thank you so much. I take the double turn. I just delay when you give me the extra free shooting phase. And there's my 3 battle line. Nice, easy. They're the humans that you love. They've got the range that I love. And the handgunners can be defensive enough on their own that some people even think it's a waste. It's 10 models, 100 points. They want to go after other stuff, which is where we come in with the other stuff. I've got 2 units of Phoenix Guard and 10 blocks. I do not have an anointed here to make them immune to battle shock. So a Phoenix Guard unit on its own is Bravery 7. With the banner, because Cities of Sigmar Allegiance, banners give everybody +1 bravery. I'm Bravery 8. They're survivable enough. Some games you're going to roll bad on the 4-up feel no pain. It's a 4-up save with the 4-up feel no pain. 2 attacks each, 3s and 3s, Ren 1 damage, 2-inch range on their halberds. Leader gets an extra attack. Drummer, gives them +1 to run and charge. Great unit in a small thing, because that's 21 attacks. That is 21 attacks, 3s and 3s, with a rend. But really, they're survivable. Again, it's my weight of this list is it's my deep strike. I'm shooting away your chaff. I'm charging in these fulminators. I'm hitting you with the griffin at the same time. The griffin gets to go first. Fulminators go in after. I'm melting people. I have my damage. I need a unit that can stand there and take a hit. Could I have 20 free guild sword and board? Yeah. Are they going to die to magic and shooting really fast because they don't have a feel no pain? Yeah. And with 10 of them, it's a big enough unit compared to, like, say, a 5-man Stormcast unit of, like, Liberator.
And that's probably a really good call out as well, is that you can't put all of your points into your hammer. So for the concept, for some people, they may not know this. You've got these concepts called hammer and anvil. Your hammer is definitely, the thing is going to come down, do a whole bunch of damage, essentially the attack. And then you've kind of got your anvil, which is going to absorb as much damage as possible. And if you're going to put all of your great stuff, all the big heroes, you put a Star Drake, you put Drycha, you put there's so many things you put into Deep Strike.
Oh God,
Now you don't have any points to retain or claim objectives. Yep. And because you're coming from the side of the board, it's going to take you probably another turn to get off the side of the board onto an objective. So
100%.
That's a trap that you fall into if you put too many points in ambush. So I like, something that's going to be durable. Might be worth calling out as well, the handgunners. There is another build. So if you like that Overwatch kind of, shooting at the charge phase, Sisters of the Thorn.
Sisters of the Watch.
Sisters of the Watch. The ones on foot, not the ones on the horse. Or the deer.
Sorry.
They also have that rule. So if you're more of an elf person as opposed to a human, that rule is there as well. But I like that, again, you've got the Phoenix Guard to also retain and hold and absorb.
So there's a funny story with this. I had a unit of 10 Phoenix Guard and a Knight-Incantor fight Archaon in Duality of Death. I had the objective with the Incantor. The Phoenix Guard were there to support and try to screen out. And he split his attacks because that's the best thing to do with Warhammer. Didn't kill anybody. And because I had the Feel No Pain, 4-ups, I was rolling hot that day. And he had to waste 2 turns to kill a Knight-Incantor and then the Phoenix Guard, instead of flying around with Archaon, who's 800 points of just crazy, to go and murder me. Well, I deep struck over 1,000 points of my army to take out the other objective, and I killed all his heroes in battle line on that side, and I flapped up. I had in that version of the list, I had a Knight of Zeros instead of the Everblaze Comet. I flapped them up on the objective. I deep struck everything else around, and then I used all these movement shenanigans to fly across the board. Easy, man, when they're not expecting it, because they're like, oh, it's living cities. This isn't the main thing. We're preparing for the magic Hallowheart coming through. We're preparing for Tempestide to just absorb that first turn. With this, you are fighting through the whole game in every phase. And also, between the 2 units of handgunners at 20 shots, 40 shots when you include the crossbows double tapping. The fulminators each get a shot each that can do D3 damage. That is another hammer. And then let's not forget the Shadow Warriors that I could plop out 9 inches of anywhere, preferably inside cover, so they get +1 to hit and wound, so that now they're all hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, -1 rend, 1 damage each. That's another 10 shots. It's great. You've got all this shooting, and because you can't screen out shooting that well, because I've got such ranges and I can show up from any table edge, you're doing good, man. You're doing good.
The chat's called out some really good stuff as well as, the Phoenix Guard are a great retinue. So being able to, pass mortal wounds, so wounds off from your general, if they're, you can't do that.
On foot. I can't do that.
Yeah, you can't be, if you're taking a big monster hero, you're not going to be able to pass off those mortal wounds. But if you're going to take a free guild general on foot, an anointed, nomad prince, one of those smaller type units, great little synergy there. And you might want to pull back and not be as aggressive as the Rocco's done with his free guild general on Griffin. You might want to pull back and have that free guild general, the anointed, the whatever it might be, and they're going to sit at the back and be a strong anvil while you've got various points going off being on your hammers. So I love all your thinking, and I'm loving how this is all kind of coming about and playing, and you can start to see, well, I don't really like this, but I could do this. I like this concept, and I'm going to apply this. because you've got no dwarves here.
No,
So, like,
not at all.
what does this look like if I was to apply dwarves? You could deep striking with your Iron Drakes, for example. There's so many things
torpedo.
you can. Yeah,
the torpedo for the leader, it's great. And also, if you wanted to go more Wanderer heavy and say you swap out the Eternal Guard for Phoenix Guard, or even if it's Sisters of the Watch at 160 points, you can plug in and play whatever you want with it. This is just the basic template. That's what I'll say when I'm helping people make lists and come up with weird ideas. And again, it's an off-meta play style. It's me, though, because I needed to build around. The whole point of this list was for Christmas last year from my sister-in-law. She bought me, because she knew I played Stormcast. She didn't know that I won the book. She bought me 2 boxes of Dracoth Cav. And for me, that'd be like 2 models for like $60. So it's something I never would have thought of. I wasn't expecting that for Christmas at all. It was such a great gift. I'm like, how do I make these work? Because in a Stormcast Allegiance, they're a little bit looked down upon right now compared to like an Evocator on Dracolion. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. How can I make it so that these things are worth it? Well, my meta has a lot of shooting. As with the KO books coming out and Tzeentch coming out, a lot of shooting, a lot of magic. What can I do with it? Oh, Fulminators are 3-up save, rerolling 1s, and they get +1 to their save against shooting attacks. Wait a minute. 2-up rerolling 1 save. They come out and they're in cover. They're not a monster. They have a rend. It's still a 2-up save at that point. You play your modifiers to you. They've got a 12-inch shooting attack. I was able to do in a game. I left like 3 skinks alive in the new Seraphon book. I moved all my Fulminators, but 1 out of range. There's a 12-inch range, so they moved their max 10 inches. Killed the last couple skinks. Got another move out of them. I'm going 20 inches up the board. And when Fulminators charge, those lances, as I said before, they do 3 damage a pop. 12 attacks, 3s and 3s. It can kill Iron Guts. Sometimes it might whiff, depending if I'm rolling or not, which is mostly the whip. But, we'll get into that later. But I'm getting such a return on investment for my opportunity cost because I'm 9 inches away. I shoot. I spend my command point. I have a 3-inch charge. And the Dracoths, too. If I'm still in combat for whatever reason and didn't shoot my way out, you know what? They do D6 damage if you roll a 6 to wound with them for the mounts. And it's still nasty. And say they're stuck there, and the other guy's, he's going to try to shoot them out. Again, they don't have Rend. Say it's a Savage Orc. Say it's Dracfoot. Your Phoenix Guard. You're like, oh, no, what do I do? I have a 2-up rerolling 1 save on my damage unit. I have a 2-up with a Mystic Shield rerolling 1 saves on my Griffin. It's carnage. I'm a tank. I can go into them. If I don't kill them, I'll take my time. I'll get those wounds through eventually.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. And, again, we talked about the different ways you can build this, right? Some of the things that I'm thinking about is, again, I might not own those particular Stormcast models, but I own...
Nobody does. Nobody does.
Pardon?
Nobody likes Fulminators. I'm the only person
they were really popular in early Age of Sigmar. I remember some guys in my local community who wrecked face on the tournament scene by having 2 units of Formulators, or 2 units of 2, plus the Star Drake. That was just a crazy strong combination. But there were things like Demigriffs. They don't have the shooting attack, but they play a similar role. They're probably not as synergistic.
Not for our purposes here, but they are really good. Demigriffs are great.
Absolutely. Looking at some of these things that can deep strike that have shooting is going to be the key. Prosecutors as well. I love them. I think there's a really good. They're not going to be as strong as the Fulminators. Fulminators. Yeah, I'm losing my mouth, but
I call them my knights because I'm also.
They're 3d6 charge.
Yes, they are. And so there's also a funnier part with this too. I made this list for a narrative leak. It wasn't supposed to be nasty. It wasn't. It was people, shit talk the Griffin. People shit talk the Fulminators. I'm like, it's whatever. I'll put whatever through. And then I won my first 10 games. And I'm like, oh, okay, we have legs here. And at the last tournament I went to, that was in person, I got 3rd place with this. The only game I dropped was to a Tzeentch player. And there was a guy who took Hallowheart. And he's like, you didn't take the meta list of Hallowheart. I'm like, nah. I didn't. And he got 4th I knocked them off of a podium with this list. No one sees it coming. Because like you said, when Age of Sigmar in the first edition was great, but it's been a few years.
Yeah.
And it's, it's an off-meta thing.
I keep talking about prosecutors because they have a smaller base. They're old school. They are Age of Sigmar 1.0.
This is now too.
Pardon?
I own them too. It's great.
I've got tuned to 3. But it's worth looking at the War Scrolls and the synergies. Just a couple of quick call-outs as well. Obviously, we talked about Everblaze Comet. You've got the command point for either your command ability or to re-roll a charge, things like that.
And with Catacross being around too, stealing them, because Bone Reapers are everywhere. I went to a tournament. There were 5 Bone Reaper players, and only 12 people came because it was our local one day. I'm like, oh, I played Bone Reapers twice. I was so happy I bought a command point because, my God, I wasn't doing anything else.
As Reflex Dog Training has said, fuck the meta. Don't just pick Phoenix Guard and things that are really popular. Do look at all the different parts of the books that are available to you. One other quick call that I just want to make before we wrap up this list, I might kind of breeze through one of your other lists. And I've got a couple of quick questions I want to ask you to kind of close out the show that I think will be really good.
All right.
Is another good thing you could possibly do is, enter something like the Balewind Vortex to extend the spell range of your healing spell, especially if you know that a lot of your stuff's going to be Alpha Strike at the top, and you're not going to have the range. The Balewind might be something that could help you there. You've said the Chromatic Cogs is another example that add that +2 to movement, +2 to charge. That could be a nice synergy again to bring something from the side to guarantee that charge or get into the juicier stuff that you want to, especially when it flies, it can jump over screens.
Yep. And the other thing with the Comet, you have to be careful with it so you're not dropping it where you're going to deep strike into, so you don't tag your own guys by accident. And but with that 100 points, you could also do, I have another version of this where instead of the Comet, I run a Knight Azeroth, so I'm rerolling ones to hit. I pair him up with the Griffin or with the Fulminators, and it's just, again, 2's rerolling ones or 3's rerolling ones to hit. It's just that force multiplier keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, shout out to the chat here who's just absolutely off the charts. I'm seeing so many cool ideas that are coming out. And I think that's the beautiful thing is that the Cities of Sigmar book is so deep and so rich. You can build a dwarf, a human, an elf, a combination, a stormcast, a Sylvaneth. There is just so many different parts you can pull into this book that you can make this your own. And, it's again, but I think that the concepts are that, these are the things I want to take advantage of.
Yes.
I might quickly breeze through your second list. So I know you've got another list here called Big Bird and Friends. We've kind of talked through the same kind of, we understand the concepts about the movement. We talked about Hammer and Anvil. We've talked about multiple threats. We've talked about some of the synergies that you've kind of brought into the picture. How does this list differ? How does Big Bird and Friends differ to the first list, which was the soup?
The soup and going about it. So this is so my bird Blue here, this Frostheart Phoenix. When you put an Iron Oak Artisan on that for +1, say if you start at a 3, you cast a spell, we're back to 2 up, baby. And then we got that 4 up, Feel No Pain. Say you throw a Luminark in there for fun, it's a 2 up save, 4 up, Feel No Pain, 6 up, Feel No Pain. You're healing this bird, you can put a Mystic Shield on it. Let's say you do what I did there and have a Battle Mage from Hysh. So now the bird is -1 to be hit, -1 to be wounded. 2 up, 4 up, 6 up. That is such an anvil. Yes, the damage is not the same as the Griffin that I love to death. And I named I have the old High Elf on Griffin that I converted to be one of my favorite characters, Beleg, from the book that I love, The Children of Hurin. But you know what? For that amount of survivability with all the spells going, since, again, my local meta went from just a straight shooting meta to here's Tzeentch, here's Seraphon, here's a Croaknado with another Slann and that, and they've got all these spells. I need something a little bit more survivable. So if I'm getting a 2 up and a 4 up, and if I'm feeling spicy with the Luminark and a 6 up, it's great. It's a great pivot. I also have a Rune Lord, too, for that +2 to unbind because everyone seems to have a plus to cast now, so I need something to fight back. And that's my hero that I'm deep striking in. And he can also give himself a Feel No Pain as well. And then in this version, I have a Huracanum for +1 to hit, because when you have the Fulminators, they are such a big base. You can easily, and they also have 2-inch range on their Stormglaives. It's very easy to be able to proc that +1 to hit on them. And it's also 3 shots.
Three shots.
3 shots on a 2-up for D3 damage. It's the tongue twister. And you're pumping out shooting with that as well. And now this is where we get to something crazy too, because we go down to the units, because now I have Big Bird. My Phoenix Guard are battle line, and they're immune to battle shock if they're protecting my bird. Yes, it is. I know they can't be a retinue because I have a big monster, but to have an unbreakable, now it's going to be 41 attacks, because 1 for the captain. And you can spend a command point for them to be able to re-roll wound rolls if you need it. You're having a great time with them. They're a blender, they're a hammer and an anvil, and they've got the 4-up feel no pain. Everyone's going to be scared of them. And we've got crossbowmen and handgunners as well. The handgunner, I keep debating. I think I like handgunners better in the 20 block to deep strike with, because then they're in range of the Huracanum. So now they're hitting on 2s and 3s instead of just 3s and 3s, because they're 10 or more and didn't move. And it's 20 shots, 2s and 3s, -1 rend, a damage a pop. Leader gets a sniper rifle for 2 damage. They're still clearing my screen. That's still there. The crossbowmen with their 24-inch range, they're what I'm putting on the table to be able to say, hey, if you move up, I'm taking pot shots at you. I'm still hitting you hard. I've got Shadow Warriors because Shadow Warriors are amazing. The Fulminators are there because, again, it can be basically a 500-point hammer that is got all the beautiful things we said about them already, with a 2-up, rerolling 1 saves versus shooting, the damage, the mortal wounds. Mortal wounds also, because it's a shooting attack, get +1 to hit. So now it's a mortal wound on a 3-up for D3 mortal wounds. So what? That's 4 or 5. You can get 7 D3 mortal wounds through with all that.
That's
and then you shoot them with the handgunners. And then you can leave the handgunners back if you need to, because now you're charging 20 handgunners. They're going to get 20 shots. And if the Huracanum's in range, that still ends up being 3s and 3s. If not, then it's 4s and 3s. But you don't want to charge that. And the handgunners can wrap around the Huracanum to be able to protect it.
Some things you might want to consider as well is, when I look at this list, it's really cool. There's a whole bunch of things you could think about, right? Or maybe tweak. I might want to, instead of taking the Huracanum, take the Luminark. Now, I know you, Rocco,
I did run it.
A massive advocate of the Luminark, something that when I first started Age of Sigmar, I ran the Huracanum for the first General's Handbook. I then ran the Luminark for the 2 afterwards, because the Huracanum points went way too expensive, and the Luminark was like really good value. But the Luminark is something that people have probably forgotten about or not talking about.
I love it.
But I know you've been running it quite well, and seeing you run it reminds me why I ran it and the damage that it just did. I know the rules have changed slightly from the old version to the Cities of Sigmar version, but I think this version, the way you use it, is better, because one of the biggest issues that I have is that it's going to likely kill my own dudes. Because the way the laser beam works, I'm either going to put it out the front of my army and I'm just going to leave it exposed, or I'm going to shoot my own dudes. But you have a different way of doing it.
I do, because I can come in off a table edge and deep strike it. I've lined up shots where I hit a Star Priest, a normal priest, a Slann, a unit, and an Astrolith Bear all in one shot. Because it's a 30-inch range, you can't screen out 30 inches. Deployment was a little funky. I got a straight line right through the center of his army because he wanted to castle up because of how the objectives were. And I just went to town blasting away, doing D3 mortal wounds to everybody. And then I got the double turn. I did it again. All those cute little support heroes that have 4 or 5 wounds, they're all gone. The Astrolith Bear, even with the 6-up, feel no pain's dead. And is it the perfect world scenario? Yes. Can I ensure the perfect world scenario because of how I can deep strike and have 30 inches of range in my shooting? Yes.
There's a really good likelihood that on average you'll be able to hit at least 3 units.
Yep.
When luck is on your side, you can probably hit 5 or 6 units, 7 even. But you can probably on average do a whole bunch of mortal wounds to at least 3 units. And if you can do that to a bunch of heroes, especially those 5 wound, 6 wound, 4 wound heroes, and 2 turns pop them like they're hot, that's boom, you've lost all the synergies. There goes all your Hag Queens. There goes all your little wizards. There's all your drop sharp. There goes so many things that are kind of keeping your army up. And another thing that I would probably do or maybe consider is something like Emerald Life Swarm as well, especially because you've got such a large unit of Phoenix Guard to bring those models back. And because they're empowered by the realms, the Cities of Sigmar ability, it means I'm bringing back D6 Phoenix Guard. I probably wouldn't do it in the first list because it's a unit of 10. But when I'm taking a unit of 20 or a unit of 30, bringing back D6 from a predatory spell is good value for 50 points.
100%. Also, so Basiladons have a 1-up unrunnable save, right?
Until they take damage.
Yeah, what's a great way of getting rid of that? Mortal wounds. You have the Luminark.
Great.
Hurricane them too. Yep. You pop out, you shoot them, and if they give you first turn and they try to be like, oh, I've got a Basiladon on my far right, Basiladon on my far left, but I can shoot in a straight line 30 inches and tag them both and start picking off armor. It's great. It's great.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's all. Yeah, and that's your list. So
that's my list.
There's a good list. You kind of get some triumph, but that's just one example. I'm seeing in the chat people are talking about Eternal Guard as well, which is another great option for not taking Phoenix Guard.
Yep.
If you don't want to spend that much on your bodies, you've got big blocks of regular free guild guard, or maybe you want to go with great swords. There are just so many different combinations that are available in this book. This has just kind of been a taster, but certainly you understand how the living city is kind of coming together, and then you can make this your own.
100%. It could be Scourge Privateers. Again, if they're already in combat, they shoot. They killed all the guys they're with. They can move again. There's so many ways.
So some rapid fire questions I want to kind of close out the show with. So, bringing all your experience together again, this is so much great stuff. So like, and we haven't even talked about, Sylvaneth, bringing your Kurnoth hunters. Sorry, we alluded to this. We didn't even talk about it.
Oh, geez, yeah. Yep.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking, B1?
Let's see.
Sorry, this is an Australian. I don't know if you guys get this in America. There's an Australian show called Bananas in Pajamas, and they talk about like, hey, B1, B2. Anyway.
I love that show growing up. You go.
With your tree revs. And they've got an ability. So the tree revs come in a unit of 5.
5.
Like 5 points or something. They're going to take up one in every 4.
Yep.
But the cool thing is that they start on the board, so they can count as one of your drops on the board. But their ability is they get to play a song like the pan flute, and they're going to be able to teleport and drop anywhere on the board outside of 9.
Correct.
So they can count as one of your units on the board, and they can teleport as well. So you've got extra teleport shenanigans on top of your Shadow Warriors, on top of what's coming on the side of the board through your legions.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's amazing. And there's always that, because once you ambush out, it's like you blew your load. That's it. This is where I'm condensed to. They can start pulling their screens back and stuff. Now here are the tree revs that can teleport anywhere. They still have to play scared. They still can't bring the full brunt of their army at you. And that's what's important with this. You get to pick the fight on your terms. You can bring 1,200 points of your army at a deep strike, mess the dude up, and they still can't answer back with everything because there's some tree revs that for like 80 points or whatever, it's not even 100, can teleport around and steal objectives. And you just use that momentum.
Reminds me what I used to do with my Gloomspite Gitz army, this rule called the Hand of Gork, where I'd pick up a unit. I'd pick up a unit of Grots, or I'd pick up a unit of Snufflers, which are like 70 points, and then literally drop them on the board. But I would do it late game. I would do it turn 4 or turn 5. So just having this like little 80-point investment on the table, you keep them away from combat. But then at the end of the game, when an army's exposed or you've done enough damage to collapse a flank, you can teleport this unit of tree revs onto an objective, while the rest of your army starts to claim other objectives. So there's other little things like that. Again, we talked about
true.
handgunners and Sisters of the Watch. Like,
Right, so with all their shooting. Say you don't give her the combat spites, so she shoots normally. Again, you don't have to kill anything; you just have to shoot. You move in with all your attacks. They're through with the 6 damage sword coming in. You're ensuring that charge. There's again, we said Ilariel with her big flyover and her flyby. We've covered. There's also the normal tree lords, the tree lord ancients. There's so many combinations you can do with this.
Yeah, and army, we've been talking. I've been talking in my Discord. If you guys are interested, the link's down below as well. But in the Discord, we're talking about Sylvaneth and talking about how, for example, Durthu, from memory, gets some additional attacks or some additional benefits if he's next to a Wildwood, an Awakened Wildwood. So then the synergy goes, well, if I'm bringing in Durthu, how do I get a Wildwood on the table? So then you start unlocking things like the Tree Lord. And then all of a sudden, you've got this or, you don't even do that and you just go straight to Drychar. Or you bring an Ilariel on.
And there's an artifact that gives every Sylvaneth into your next hero phase +1 attack, the Wardroth Beetlehorn. So
wow.
You can make that nasty.
Have two Durthus, one with Gaia Strike or one with that if you take the battalion. And there's just some crazy combinations. Again, this discussion is not going to, it's just the tip of the iceberg, but should be enough for you to start thinking about your army.
And the battalion's not that bad. I swear, guys, I'm not playing it right now, but it's okay. So it's a 7-inch charge from Deep Strike for Wild Riders. That's not bad. It's average dice. You get
my issue with most of the Cities of Sigmar battalions is what it forces you to take. I find them mostly restrictive.
If it was Eternal Guard over Wildwood Rangers, I would take that in a heartbeat. Yeah.
I feel the same, with Tempest Eye, and there's a whole bunch of them. This is not the Tempest Eye show. This is the Living City show. It's all right. It's not crap, but it's not. You don't have to take it. But again, you want the low drops. You want the extra command point, the extra artifact. Maybe you do take it.
Yep.
So maybe some rapid fire questions to kind of close out the show. Rocco,
all right.
How does this army win their games?
This army wins their games by defeating their enemy in detail. So we ambush off. It's just like the lore. You pop out, you shoot them a bunch, you surround them, you play the villain, you charge in, finish them off. There's half their army gone. You have all of your big fighting pieces safe because you charged in and got to fight first with your Griffin or your Phoenix, and then you got to hit with the Fulminators. If they both charge the same big block of, say, 60 grots, it's probably going to be dead at the end, especially with all the shooting. And you shoot through screens, you move through them, you charge through them, and you use the deep strike into your advantage to pick them apart at different places. And where you put your weight, you just go right into it.
So you want a couple of real hammers that are going to really collapse that flank and create threats. Especially when I think about things that don't require synergy. Because you're not going to, if you're going to deep strike, you're not going to get a hero phase. So you can't cast a spell on them. They can't use a, well, depending on when their command ability kind of comes into play, but you might not get that. So, so that's why the first thing I think about is something like Drychar, who is just an absolute combat beat stick, whose base is actually not that big. It's actually quite a generous base that you can probably fit anywhere on the board. Who's got that shooting attack, who's also good at combat. So, as much as I love Ilariel, as much as I love the Star Drake, as much as I love some of these things, they're very hard to do. And there are a lot of hard points.
Yeah. And again, the Fulminators, they're self-sufficient because they charged.
And they shoot. I think the key to them is they shoot. Unlike the Demis, unlike some of the other
charge and get 3 damage with their pokey sticks.
Like I quickly had a quick look when you were talking about this. I wanted to see if the kitty cats, the Dracolines, if they don't have a shooting attack. So while I really like the Dracolines, they don't have the shooting attack, which means they don't get the command ability benefit. So so that's why I like just think this through. Think about things that are good in combat, but also have some shooting potential. Even if it's rubbish potential, the point is it can shoot, not necessarily the damage.
Yep. If it can shoot, it can move twice. Yeah. And again, that's the Fulminators. They've got a 10-inch move, 12-inch shot. I move 10 inches away from something, they shoot, they move again. across the board. They get a nice charge. I could move 10, 20 plus 12, 32 inches all the way through if the max range charge got off. But you get my point. We're moving far. We're hauling.
Yeah, love it.
Next question. Hit me.
So what are the things that are going to stop you from winning? So what are the things that concern you the most when you look across the board at an opponent?
So things that concern me the most is, like, let's say, because this just happened to me, Knife to the Heart, and it's like 2 big blocks of 40 skinks, and they've got some other skinks, they've got some salamanders, but it's the numbers game. I play Living Cities myself more as an elite army with some shooting and a lot of combat, and God forbid the Fulminators don't kill what they get into contact with, then it's 500 points of my army. And if, they're survivable at a 3-up rolling 1 save, but if I put them into something more elite, or if I whiff and they don't touch it and then they get hit back with something with rend, it can get a little bit dicey. Or if it's like heavy magic and I threw all my weight in and I took my shot and I miss, and I've got 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 points of my army up there in magic range, I'm scared. Which is where like a Luminark could come in. But even then, that's not gonna probably get everybody. Sometimes I might charge outside of the range of it if the Luminark takes damage. So, it's if I'd miss this, I'm swinging a big sledgehammer, but I have to call it a scalpel, because if I miss my shot where I take it, I'm out of position.
And, a couple of call-outs from the chat. One, Eduardo had talked to it's not Eduardo, butchered that one up, but he knows what I'm talking about. He called out a Petrifix Elite being the number one concern. If you're going to swing a big hammer or a big scalpel, you got to make sure that it's sharp. So looking at making sure you've got maximum Rend 2, because you will just hit a wall, and those Mortec Guard on their 3-up, you're just going to bounce off if you're not strong enough. So if you are going to deep strike, think about who you're going up against. Make sure you've got some Rend -2. Reflex Dog called that another really good point as well.
Yeah,
that you kind of had some challenges with. I know we had a muck around game on Tabletop Simulator, but I had 140 Gloomspite Geek Grots on the table, and Reflex Dog is a big Skaven player, and he talked about an unending tide of rats. If you have lots and lots and lots of bodies on the board, the chief 25 mil bodies, it's going to it's going to screen out the places that you can come on the 6s, which may not be optimal. So.
100%. And so I'm 3-2 against OBR, and I'm 3-0 against Skaven. Not to toot my own horn here, but what tends to happen is with Skaven, I do have Rend and I do have my own shooting. So the point is with the deep striking of the shooting, I've got between 40 to 60 potential damage depending on what build I do, to kill 1 unit of 40, let's say, Plague Monks or Storm Vermin or Clan Rats, and then I charge in, and the Fulminators, the Riders themselves can do, I believe it was like 36 damage if it all goes through.
Yeah.
And then the mounts go. So I've had games where I've wiped out 80 Clan Rats from 1 deep strike, or it was 40 Storm Vermin, 40 Clan Rats. And I've had games where I've left 5 Petrifex, Bone Reapers, Mortec Guard alive. I'm at the mercy of my dice with this. And again, it's if the deep strike goes off, it's great. And there are buffing pieces to do it. But again, those can be expensive. And if it's down to objectives and I need bodies, and if I'm not careful because I have all my stuff off the board and they can just grab it right away, I'm at such a disadvantage.
I think the point that I would want to make in here is when I refer to the Grots and the Skaven, is that you will most likely not get where you want to deep strike. Yes. Where the most optimal time is it won't always happen. So what is your plan B?
My plan B
may not necessarily be just because I can deep strike 5 units doesn't mean I will deep strike 5 units.
100%.
And I think that's the trap as well. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. So when you think about that, you might only want to deep strike 1 or 2, or maybe at least in your list design, you want some smaller bases as much as the larger bases. So just something to consider.
So my plan B is, like, let's say with Skaven, what I did, they dropped in The what's the things with the little brain rats on the back? Or
So we call them storm friends because you
okay.
always make friends with storm
Yep.
fiends.
Yep.
The
Yep.
storm fiends.
Yeah, with the big globe launchers and the bazooka bit. So he had, it was either a 6 or 9 pack of them dropping. He took first turn because, again, I'm like 11 or 12 drops depending on the list. And again, look at the Phoenix Guard with them being an MSU. He had to commit to that. And he charged in and he killed handgunners and he had a home objective. It was Blood and Glory with the 4 objectives. And, you know, you did it. It was great. But my important stuff's in Deep Strike. So I went and took over my home objective. I brought the Fulminators down, shot and moved them. We charged in with all my shooting. We cleared them out. I got the double turn. I was able to move up, shoot, and move up again with the Fulminators, and then concentrate my firepower in charging. Bone Reapers, it's a lot harder because those catapults can mess me up, which you saw with Liam doing it to me. You know, but again, I lost 10 guys to like 2 rounds of catapult shooting because of the 4 feel no pain. It still hurt and it still looked bad, but I had enough of my army off the board. So it gives me a fighting chance at least.
Yeah, absolutely. But I just want to call out the weakness, just in case you're not thinking. The final question, that we're kind of coming to the end of the show. I need to wrap up. But the final question I just wanted to kind of close the show out with before we kind of do like those special mentions and props is that what have you learned from playing the Living City that might not be obvious to someone when they very first pick up the battle tome? If they've just watched this and they've gone, cool, this sounds great. Like what are those little things that those little 1%ers?
All right. So the first thing again was that I keep harping on it is because no one thought it's the army where you can take a unit from anywhere and make it good. Because as long as there's some shooting and then it can go into combat, like again, these Fulminators. I got laughed at. And then then the dude was freaking, oh, this list is bullshit, it's cheese. I'm like, oh, you were laughing before though. You know, I was able to find units and homes for those units and those models that I love in my collection that get passed over a little bit to be able to put in here and give them new life. I was able to, again, the command ability was used with the double move. The spell lore is actually great. That Cage of Thorns spell, it's amazing to be able to have someone's movement and they take damage. It's got some of the best healing with that once per turn thing. People, it's 1 wound. It's something that I wish even the Phoenicium had, where instead of having extra wounds on their Phoenixes, they just automatically heal. This city is great for Phoenixes. This city, it's like the off-meta champion for me because no one's going to see it coming.
Yeah. I think people talk about, even in the chat, people talk about Hello Heart, they're talking Tempest Eye, Hammer Hall.
Oh, yeah.
People, I've experienced a couple of games, both real life and tabletop sim of Living City. And, I had an elf ambush before we had lockdown. And it was pretty brutal, man, just dropping down, these Nomad Princes and the Sisters of the Thorn, Sisters of the Watch, Eternal Guard, the Shadow Warriors. It was just this absolute assault from
That's your nightmare, too. You hate elves.
Oh, but it was an assault from all 4 sides of the board. And when I'm trying to play an objective-based game, it was just really, really tough to know where to go, and I was just being stretched. And
shout out the Nomad Prince too, because that command ability goes off in the shooting or combat phase. So that's 2s and 3s on the Sisters of the Watch, with 6s to wound or the mortal wound. So yeah, you're getting a lot through.
Rocco, I do have to wrap up. My wife's kind of like, she got a conference call. She's like, please, can I use your office? But this was incredible. I've learned a lot, and it was great to discuss the Living Cities and Cities of Sigmar with you. Now, I know that you are a published author. I have linked down below in the episode description where you can read about how he almost died from a bat before Corona made it cool. But
Twice.
Well, don't. All right. Well, it is a good read. I've enjoyed what I've read so far. But is there anything that you want to shout out? Any props? If you want to learn more about Rocco, I have also got his Twitter handle in the description below. So do make sure you give this guy a follow. He's
Thank you.
hilarious. But
thank you. Yep.
Shout
Oh,
out.
okay, shout out to the Basement War Gamers. They're the club I play out of Gamers Heaven in Pennsylvania. Shout out to actually the Delaware Warhammer scene. There's a lot of 40K, but AOS has been growing really well, so I'll play through that. Shout out the AOS Coach Discord as well, because you end up meeting so many people. I'm on there too, and what I do is for my club and for the Discord, I actually teach people how to play Age of Sigmar and how to work through Tabletop Simulator. And we've got games going all the time, and it's a great place to meet people, hang out, and meet people from around the world. Then you get to do stuff like this. It's great.
This has been great. It's been awesome. For anyone who's probably thinking themselves, I want to talk about Tempest Eye or Anvil Guard. Well, the good news is I'm going to do more of these. So keep an eye out if you're going to watch. If you're watching this live, thank you very much for hanging out with us. If you are watching this on replay, know that we are going to be doing a whole bunch more of these, both for Cities of Sigmar, but also might have a couple of other ones we're going to explore in the future. Some of those unloved or untapped potential, like we saw with Soblight, previously recorded. But Rocco, thank you very much. This has been really insightful. If you
Thanks
guys want
for having me. Oh my, Anthony, this is great. Thank you so much, man.
Glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad the chat joined us with us. Lots of cool stuff happening in the chat. Really appreciate you guys. Love, support. Thank you very much. Stay happy, stay healthy, and get back in there and roll lots of sixes. Who knows? Or maybe I'll see you guys on Tabletop Sim in the near future.
Maybe. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
See you, folks.